Okay. So I feel like this should, because you have read the vocational themes workbook, a lot of this should feel somewhat familiar to you, right? So we're gonna, I think I want to give you time today to be able to set up and going and doing an informational interview. So these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, and then we'll come back together tomorrow and talk about what you learned in the business, hopefully. After we get through with the kind of the learning session part, if you would like to kind of vote to either give yourselves a little more time in the morning, because you maybe don't know that you'll be able to connect with anyone this afternoon or sometime today, we can do that. But after we get through the material, we'll talk about that. So we're going to talk about how we're connecting discovery activities to develop these vocational themes, and then how you're going to be kind of using the vocational themes workbook. It's not something that's required, but I feel like it's a really great tool, especially if you're really needing to pull out some of those details from the activities as you're working with somebody who might, just be a little bit more complex. And then you're testing these themes through the informational interviews, and we'll talk about that. And then you're going to get the chance to do an informational interview, today or tomorrow. And if that's not absolutely possible, I want to know that you've at least scheduled it, where you're going, and then you can kind of write up a narrative for it. I know it's a little tricky to just on the fly say, here, go find a business to talk to. But I also know it can be done because we've done it over lunch hours and it's been successful. So, and it doesn't have to be in behalf of the job seeker you're working with right now. So we'll talk about that. I don't want you to be getting anxious and not taking in the information that I'm sharing with you. So I have this slide as part of just a way to, we're kind of at this place in the material where we're kind of looking back, right? We're looking back at what we've learned from the family, what we've learned from people who are close to this person, what we've learned from discovery activities, both familiar and unfamiliar, right? You've built some rapport with this person. And so we're kind of looking back a little to then start thinking about where should we go to get some advice from people in the field that are doing this work. So this is the fidelity tenet that goes along with the piece of the process around vocational themes. So minimally, you are going to use the information that you've gathered during discovery activities to identify the skills that this person has, or some of the emerging skills that this person has, what types of support this person needs, and then what are some of the potential vocational themes. We don't know them yet as we're getting into this work. Even better, so is that when we're doing some of these informational interviews, a person might get to try some of the experiences that are happening in these businesses and that you're connecting with. It doesn't always happen, but you can certainly ask for an opportunity to come back if it seems like it's a good fit, or you walk in and this person is teaching several other people how to start seeds or whatever it is, and this is really makes sense for this person to come back and join in the next session that he's doing on starting your garden from seeds, or whatever this person's interested in. That's what we're talking about as far as being able to try something in these particular locations. Okay, so this should look familiar. This was in the workbook. This is that graphic that really summarizes what makes up a vocational theme. And this is how it is different than a job description, or just like a job particularly, right? Because it takes all of these different things that you've done, or that we're looking for, that really make sense to this person, that we know they're going to make sense. And that is what makes up the vocational theme. So the interest alone, or the focus area alone, isn't enough, right? There has to be tasks associated with this vocational theme that make sense. The interest has to be there, right? The personal attributes need to line up. The activities that you've done also are evidence to this theme. And then the work culture and conditions, that's what you're verifying when you're going out and doing some of these informational interviews. So I want you to, before you just jump to the theme with somebody, after meeting them for the first time, I want you to just slow down, right? We don't jump to the job, and you don't want to jump to the theme right away, because you want to take time to do some of these pieces that will really build in to what the vocational theme is. It could, again, that can be really tricky if somebody is, you know, has that kind of for lack of a better word, kind of obsessive interest in something and has a lot of skills around it. I'm not saying that you don't say this person has a real interest in technology when their room is filled with computers and they know everything there is to know about them, and they've built them, torn them apart, sold parts, whatever. That's a pretty obvious theme if you can immediately kind of connect all of these pieces, right? The skills, the work culture, the attributes. You know, if some of those things are pretty obvious, you could probably say this person has a strong technology theme, right? Based on experiences they've already had, what others say about them, that sort of a thing. So ultimately, a vocational theme is a way that we have these broad umbrella categories that hold a whole lot of jobs and the environments that make sense for a person, the skills, the task sets, and the interests. So by not limiting it to job descriptions, it can hold an unlimited number of job descriptions, right? It really opens up possibilities, even in the smallest communities, right? So when people say there are no jobs here, everybody, you know, goes out of town to work or whatever. That might be the case, but there are probably some people operating small businesses within their home or providing products to someone, or right, there's just more to it than the actual specific job. And so it really is a way to think broader about economic development. So again, how do we develop these themes? And there's these major elements, right? And this kind of goes back to that graphic of we're doing the activities that verify the interest or the other pieces that make up what the vocational theme is. We know what the preferred tasks are for this person. Understanding that there are tasks that people don't prefer, that they may have, that might be essential, but they're not the bulk of what somebody might be expected to do. The interest has to be there. We know that people are more likely and want to do something when they're interested in it. There has to be some skill there, or some emerging skill, right? That somebody can learn some things, figure out some of those nuanced ways, what their contribution is going to be around that particular theme, and then that their ideal conditions of employment match, right? If somebody really likes, you know, a certain type of work environment, and the theme that you're kind of coming up with doesn't match that at all, it may not align, right? And then those personal attributes are really important too. So those things all kind of make up what the theme is. So the other piece that's important to realize is that we don't just identify one theme. We come up with three. And the reason is right, we're all multidimensional. There's not any of us that have just one interest. And when we come up with three, we're able to sometimes combine those themes, right? And broadening the skill sets or the tasks that might be able to happen in a certain business or opportunity. The other reason is that, you know, if we only have two and you walk away from one, then you're back to one. They don't have to be precise. It's more of a guidance to get you a little bit closer to what makes sense for this person and guides some of these task-based activities. And it really just helps you, it just kind of guides that process. So when we do those informational interviews, and I talked about this before when we were talking about discovery activities, and if you're feeling like you don't know enough about a particular area or a type of activity that somebody wants to try, doing an informational interview with someone who is doing that kind of work or is a subject matter expert can help you lead to more meaningful discovery activities. And so you might do those out of order a little bit. Sorry. As far as it being able to inform some of your discovery activities. So it's not the sum total, but they make your theme stronger, if that makes sense. What we're looking for is evidence, right? When somebody says this person has a strong theme in, outdoors or working with their hands, these are all the reasons, these are all the things that we've done that tell me why, right? Or this person has a strong theme in animal, agriculture or animals, and these are all the things that we've done. And here are the skills, the tasks, and you can list those things out, right? That's your evidence, or organization, whatever it is. And we're gonna talk about what some of the common kind of themes are. I don't want you to get stuck and box into what these common themes might be, but just kind of gives you an idea. I think it's hard when you're learning a new concept or a new kind of process to not have any idea of what we're looking for. So we've talked a lot about how when someone's interested in something, it helps with that acquisition of a skill or a task, right? Everybody's heard me talk about how much I try to avoid doing anything that involves Excel because I have no interest in it. And so I have managed to not do it or get good at it, even though I probably should, right? And I don't try to remember it. I'm using myself and using the self-deprecation as an example, but we all have those tasks or things in our life that we genuinely don't want to do. Yet, if there's no accounting for what I'm interested in doing in my job search, and I just get placed in doing something, what are some of the labels I might get? Not ready for community employment, doesn't want to work, all of the things that we've kind of talked about in terms of those labels, when it's really just kind of been more of an issue around, I'm really not interested in doing those things, right? I'll do them a little, or I'll do them in this environment, right? I am willing to, push the broom around the Delta Center because I love watching the Jazz play. But I'm not going to push the broom around an elementary school because I really don't love being around kids, right? Like that's the difference. And when I say pushing a broom around, it's not that that's the go-to, but maybe that's part of what somebody has to do, right? That's one of the tasks that are expected in a certain position at working with the Jazz or something like that, right? Or you're dry sweeping the Jazz floor. That's very different than dry sweeping, an elementary school that you don't want to be at. I'm just giving an example, right? When like location matters, sometimes that changes people's willingness to do certain tasks. Sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes it's a temporary fix, right? Like I wanted to do this for a while, but now that the novelty is worn off, guess what? I still don't want to spend my whole day sweeping if that's what it ended up being. We have an example about a young man who was really into taking apart doors, cabinets, woodworking, all sorts of things. And it mostly got him in trouble. Most of the time it was considered kind of a negative behavior in his school life and at home. And so we tried just kind of exploring, well, what would happen if he did work alongside some cabinet makers or people who were, making custom doors, and doing the hardware. And we created a position for him, and it was his very first paid job. And so he did have some kind of cleaning tasks that were surrounding that position. But we negotiated that he was spending time, crafting, helping with the making of the cabinets and the doors. As time went on, and I think as some of the, the managers or people kind of shifted around, he spent less time doing the woodworking and more time doing like cleaning up after people. And he didn't want to work there anymore. And by the time we had figured out that what was going on, because the coaching had faded by that point, he knew the job, he knew what he was doing. He didn't want to go back. He didn't want to try to fix it. He didn't want, and so he walked away from that position. And so again, he was willing to do those things as part of the job, but not the whole job. And so that as time went on and that changed, it didn't work out for him. So I just want to be careful about some of those things where, right, we all have things that we don't necessarily want to do and we have to do, but that can't be the whole sum of a position. And so you want to just be careful with that in terms of negotiating, or what you're looking at in terms of skill acquisition and tasks that people are performing. The other piece to really think about is, those mutual interests. And these are not just the things that, but right, like how people connect over wrestling, or, I've talked to you about, the young man that had the strong interest in chickens and how much he enjoyed talking about chickens with other people. The woman that, that kind of became his mentor and friend also happened to be a chicken farmer, and they bonded over chickens because it was both something they really enjoyed and cared about. They were both picking them up and loving them. Not only did she, do that for a living, but she genuinely cared about the animals, as did he. So they had this mutual interest. It also happened to be something that he wanted to do. But people have interests like, if there's a big fantasy football, or, there's a softball team, like there's other things that people can connect over that aid in that worksite inclusion. And, people can connect over those things, and those also help with hiring or feeling good about a place or a workplace culture. This kind of gets to what I was talking about in terms of those preferred skills and tasks. And this also gets to when we're doing some of those familiar tasks that people might be doing in their homes, like chores. And I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying here is that evidence of self-determined interest can be hard to come by. So oftentimes, right, if people have had work experiences in life skills programs or post-high programs, they have been some kind of fixed experiences, right? Facing cans and again, those are not bad, but if there was not a lot of preference or ability for the person to say, I absolutely want to try that, or this is something I'm really interested in learning, and we don't know that, it can be a little tricky to be basing all of what we're doing in discovery based on what the person already knows how to do, if that makes sense, because we don't know how much of that is self-determined. Does that make sense? People like to go bowling because it's the only options they've been given. Some people genuinely like bowling. Other people are like, well, it's the only option. It's either that or sit home on a Saturday night, right? And I'm not being critical. It's just the nature of some of the services or group kinds of things that happen with people. Does anybody have any pushback, thoughts, discussion about that? I just want you to be aware of it as you're going into people's homes, you're learning about what people have done. You're trying some things. Just be a little tricky. Anything you want to add to that, Kel? I always feel like my tone gets a little judgy, but yet I just want people to be aware of.
No, I don't really have anything to add. I think you covered it. It is just, something good to keep in mind. And the more we can kind of, even if it's not you guys as the employment specialists, but just like having conversations and encouraging experiences beyond what they've done for maybe a while. Experiences beyond school, experiences beyond day programs. That's always a good thing, because sometimes, I mean, we all kind of just get stuck in our familiar routines and activities, but like, and there's again, that's not necessarily bad, but um just to kind of keep encouraging exploration to uncover new interests that will lead to more tasks and just more opportunity.
I think, I mean, and this is kind of getting into the, the development and the job development and the coaching, but it's all connected in terms of understanding how to really support somebody to develop skills and tasks that are connected to their interests. Right. Oftentimes when I'm providing technical assistance or people are reaching out, and Jason, I know you have lots of experiences and people that reach out to you around this too. It is often because it's not a good match. There's been, not a lot of some of these things that are done beforehand, and then it's trying to rescue something or put together something, providing enough support when the tasks and skills weren't necessarily cultivated or didn't really align with what the job is. I don't know if you have any more to add there, but it just gets a little tricky because once somebody gets a job, nobody wants them to lose it, but it's not always the right fit. And then anyway, so it's a rabbit hole I'm going down. I just think it's really important to just kind of just pause for a minute and make sure that when you are going down the road of interest, that you're also really looking for those skills and tasks. And that can be tricky, especially when somebody has not had an opportunity to try anything, or somebody has really limited use of their hands, or linguistically, they are relying on technology for speech. You're going to have to really, dig deep for what that might look like, or how technology might assist that person to complete some of those tasks. Or maybe it's owning something that they can operate or contribute to a business. So, if you are working with somebody who has some real complex support needs, let's talk about that, because it can be hard sometimes to identify what tasks and skills are evident, or they might have tried. Kelly and I have supported someone who needs a lot of like physical assistance, and in her school experience, she was delivering milk, she was helping out, in different ways, but she was using her chair and a tray and all the different kind of technology to do some of those things. And the employment specialist at that time had not connected with the teacher to know what some of those experiences had been. And so what her contributions or skills and tasks that she had not been translated yet, if that makes sense. We talked about this when we were when we were going over the teaching pieces, right? The difference between a skill and a task, right? That it's a skill is that learned and practiced action that contributes to the performance, how well you're able to do something. And And then the task is that series of actions. So even as we're doing these informational interviews and we're developing these vocational themes, we're paying attention to, right, that level of confidence, what kind of support strategies work best and the best way to teach this person. These are also things that you're paying attention to in the work environment. If you're doing an informational interview, if you get a chance to spend some time there, how is everybody taught there, and what kind of work environment is it? Is it supportive? Understanding what that person needs before you go into as you go into business and figure out if this is going to be a good fit or not. That guides some of the questions that you might ask. How does this person process information? Maybe trying some new but related tasks, right? We talked about how if somebody has mowed their lawn, but they've never used the weed eater, or they've never aerated, right? They've never used other types of lawn equipment. If there's an opportunity to try that, right? And where else to trying some of these tasks makes sense. So personal attributes, I think these can get tricky, I think, sometimes with themes, but they're really, really tricky in terms of how they inform, right, the kind of work conditions and the culture that somebody wants to be a part of, right? I think we're all our best selves when we can kind of be as authentic as possible most of the time. I mean, I know we're all different at work on some level than we are at home, but right, people want to feel like they can be themselves, and people can get to know them. And as an employment specialist, being able to kind of help coworkers build those relationships with the person that you're supporting. So paying attention, to some of that culture, and knowing what that person's personality and kind of characteristics are. If they really like to joke, and that's something that you kind of notice or see going on. I cannot be on time if my life depended on it. So if I had to punch a clock, I would be fired in 5 minutes. In fact, I've avoided anywhere. I've never asked the question, do I punch a clock here? I just tend to seem to avoid all of those particular places. But I will tell you that there is a place for everyone. It's just a matter of figuring out where that is. And sometimes, right, it can take a while. But this is the beauty of customized employment, is you get to be creative and find other creative people. So I want us to take a minute and just, throw it in the chat or turn on your mic. There's only a few of us today. So tell me, I don't know, just start naming the jobs. Somebody who likes dogs. What are some just jobs that you can think of? How many, I guess? And you could even just kind of lump these all together. Find the chat. Why can't I see the chat? Where'd it go? Whoops.
Grooming.
Okay. What else? There. So vet, grooming, boarding. Okay, what about cars? Person that's interested in cars. I mean, if like specific cars, I guess you would say a dealership, right? Or car history museum, that's a good one. Mechanics, parts stores, good. Good about somebody who likes working on the janitor crew. What are the jobs that you would think of there? Movie theater, a school.
Office building.
Mhm. Somebody who is regularly studying in a math workbook. What job would you think of for that person? Hospitals, hotels, yep. Good for the janitor piece. Yep, there's lots of cleaning happening there. Clearly, none of us are math geniuses. We're having a hard time thinking about where someone who studies math workbook. Banks, cashier. You're on it this morning, Tony. You did not, maybe you didn't, maybe you did get up at 4 a.m. I don't know. Stores, ordering merchandise, supplies, good. So somebody that does like inventory or just. Okay. My husband's really good at math and he does not like, he's a sales manager at a dealership. So he's ordering cars and has numbers and all sorts of things memorized all the time. So I would even like, I guess that's what, accounting or I guess it is inventory. Yeah. Okay. So now you guys thought you did pretty good, even if you were quiet. Now I want you to think about those in themes. So, right, if somebody liked dogs, the theme would potentially be animals. We're not just talking about dogs though. So what does that open up? Somebody likes cars, the theme could be transportation, right? That's obviously bigger than cars. So now start thinking about places where you might go talk to where things around animals are happening. So morbid, but auction, cattle ranch, slaughterhouse, taxidermy. Is my 4 a.m. brain. I don't know. Pet sitting. Wait, there's an online pet sitting? Tell me about that. Somebody like sits online and watches your dog?
Yeah. No, it's a service that you can go like in your area and choose like if you're going out of town and you want somebody to come to your house and
Okay.
watch animal, or
So
if you
like the
want
rover or whatever, like you, like that.
right. Exactly. I
Okay.
couldn't remember the site, but that's exactly what it meant.
I had the Ring camera on my dogs and I disconnected it because it was infuriating to watch what they do all day. They were quite naughty. So It was better not to look. Um, yeah, so yeah, still dog walking but right, animals opens up a lot more. And it could be that the person really does only like dogs, but it could be that they do like more than dogs. They've just not only been around dogs, right? So that when we do discovery activities, those are some of the things that we explore. Especially with the unfamiliar, right? Like you might start with walking if they say that they walk their family dog and we are in charge of feeding them and bathing them. You might verify all of those things.
I
Go
I
ahead.
think animals can be a tricky one because a lot of people express like an interest in animals, but that you got to explore that deeply because sometimes that means they love the animals that they're familiar with, but they're not comfortable around animals they're not familiar with. Like that's totally me. I adore my dog, but I'm scared of big dogs. If you sent me to a place where there's just a bunch of other dogs that I don't know, I'm not going to do well there. So people might express that as like a really strong interest. And they might talk about it a lot, but you've got to really dig in and explore what that interest means to them because it doesn't equate to a theme. So just be mindful and with anything, but I've just seen that a lot with animals in particular. So just be mindful of like, again, Trisha, we've said this several times, but an interest does not equate to a theme. It has to be more than that. And you got to explore what that interest actually looks like for the individual.
What about transportation? Thank you, Kel. What about transportation versus cars? That opens up a whole lot, doesn't it? Airport, snowmobiles, UTVs. Go-karts. Right? Parking. Right, there's lots of things. Cleanliness. If somebody really does enjoy working on the janitor crew, or doing, some of those cleaning tasks, rather than thinking about janitor positions or, cleanliness as a theme, where does that matter? Where does that make sense? It can be some of those other places that we listed, right? Hospitals, hotels, right? Cleanliness still matters there, but it also like surgical centers. Where else does cleanliness matter? Yep. So the person in that was seen using the math workbook has a theme of mathematics. Is that a little easier to connect to what type, like where that makes sense? Where are places that a lot of kind of math or computations are happening, besides being a teacher or a tutor or engineering, right? So one of the other really great things is when we can mix a person's things, and we talked about, right, that we're not, yes, science, right? There's a lot of math interfixes with science. Is that we're multidimensional, right? So if we can combine themes sometimes, right? Like if somebody really is has a lot of strength around cleanliness and they also happen to enjoy spending time with children, right? Where do those things make sense? Where could we combine those potential themes? Or animals and cleanliness, right? Those kinds of things that can be combined. Or transportation animals, right? I mean, you never know what can happen, but when you kind of start putting those things together, you can get pretty creative. And the options open up as far as where those things are happening. And then you start mining supply chains, and we'll talk about that. So these are some common vocational themes. So organization. So think about, spending time with someone who, right, everything has its place in every space that they're in. They're often just very organized. So you might test that out in their comfortable space, but then go somewhere that's unfamiliar and set up, some type of an organization project, or do something that's a little bit less familiar and certainly a less familiar place. There are some people that only want to organize their stuff, right? They only want to organize their DVDs in a certain way and they don't really care about anything else. But you don't know that until you kind of try it, right? So just again, these are about kind of verifying, looking for some evidence with tasks and skills associated with some of these interests that somebody is either telling you that they have, or that they have experience in, or others are saying, oh, this person, is all about athletics, or, these teams. And these are the skills they have around it, right? They call everybody and tell them what game is on every Sunday. And, they know everybody's fantasy football league, whatever, so they're using, so the interest is athletics, but then there's, other things that are going into that, right? That are the skill and the tasks associated with it. Organization, communicating with people, whatever it might be, right? That you're kind of listing out what some of those skills and tasks are associated with that particular activity.
Even math, if they're really good at like taking stats and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about fantasy football. I just know that there's some people that take it really, really serious, and others who are more guessy around it. My husband's on the guessy fun side, so I've never really learned how it all works. But do these kind of make sense? Does it help to see some of the common themes? And when you were going through the workbook, has anybody kind of figured out what their themes are? And does anybody want to share what they think their themes are? You don't have to. I would venture to say a lot of us in this doing this work have a strong advocacy theme, right? Like, there's not that it's nobility isn't the right word, but right, we want to help people, we want to make a difference, right? That's kind of an advocacy thread, I would say. I think it's also oftentimes, I've heard people feel like they have a strong kind of curiosity or problem solving. Not that people are a problem to be solved, but right, it's how can we figure a way through this, right? And that's why, oftentimes customized employment discovery really aligns with people, because they like being curious and find it fun and interesting. Cal, what do you feel like your themes are?
I was just thinking about that, and I would say like advocacy is a broad word, but it's meaningful to me to feel like I am helping, even if it's in a small way, to promote like positive change. Like that's meaningful to me. And I do think that falls under advocacy. I think art is one of them, even though that doesn't like manifest strongly in my current job. I still feel like there are elements of it that tie in, and it's just something that, I mean, not every theme ends up being like your the primary element of your job. Like it's still a theme for me, but the job I'm doing, it's not like the primary theme. And for a third one, I do think it is that that curiosity and some of that problem solving. I like as I look at this list, I feel like that's accurate. Like those three, advocacy, art, and curiosity are accurate for me.
What about you, Jason? Have you ever figured out what your themes are? In all the times that you've like had to sit through this.
Sorry, say that again.
What do you feel like your themes are?
My what? My
Your
themes?
themes, your vocational themes.
Oh, boy,
I
that's
know.
a good one. I know that when I started out, this is a broad one, but professionalism, like, I don't know how to describe that, but I really liked the idea of like being in an environment where there were other like professional individuals who were dedicated to like a very specific sort of, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like cause or something. All the years ago when I became like when I first got into vocational rehabilitation, like there were like 5 counselors that were on this team that I was on at Workers' Compensation Fund, and they were just like they were like subject matter experts, right? And they just sort of seemed like they knew everything. And boy, I loved being in that environment. So that's that was a big like reason why I came into voc rehab, because I knew like, okay, well, I'm going to have to do some education and some very specific training, and I'm going to be sort of like a subject matter expert in this specific thing. And so yeah, I'm not sure if that's a theme, but the idea of like this professional sort of environment. And now I look back and I go, boy, I probably could have gone anywhere and got a professional environment. But
So, I mean, I think as far as so that like learning, I mean, maybe it's curiosity, maybe it's professional growth, or I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't have to fit in this list. I think that's the hard thing, is when you have like the list in front of you, you feel like you're trying to fit in it.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that you don't necessarily have to, but I love that. Creative, I like it. Advocacy is a big one for Tish. Yeah. Yeah, I think that one's always my strongest one. And then I feel like I've had some other, over time, there's been themes that have been stronger than others, right? As far as, but I would say the advocacy and the curiosity for me. Go together. I don't know that I have it. 3 specifically. 3 is hard. I'm not gonna lie. For
If I
some
had to
people, it
guess
seems
for
obvious.
you, if I had to guess for you, I would say outdoors and nature. I know that's an interest, but I feel like it could, again, it's not really like directly related to your current job, but I feel like you've always like that it's a strong enough interest that it could, I think it could become a thing for you.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it feeds
that's me.
it feeds my soul for sure.
Exactly.
Social
So
science part. Yeah.
it's more than just like you enjoy it, like it's something that like has deep meaning for you, but that's just me guessing for you. So
And I do have some skills in it. I just don't know that I don't get to do it as much as I would like. But you're right, like your art's the same way. Anyway, I hope you're kind of thinking about what are my themes? And have they been there all along? Right? Awesome. So they do kind of take practice, right? To kind of to think about them and to think about what those skills are and what feeds into a theme. You know, this is your opportunity to really just talk to people about what they do, right? The person that does your hair, your tax person, you know, whoever is coming to do, you know, things at your house, whatever. You know, try to take some notice of things that you don't normally notice and you know, just kind of practice this a little bit. So I think some other ways that you can develop vocational themes or some questions to ask. Hold on, do we need a break? Does anybody need a break? Yes. Okay, should we take 8 minutes or 6? Come back at 10:25. Let's do that. We're doing good on time. Pause the recording. All righty. So I think these are some great questions to really kind of help you think about what some of these themes might be in terms of, right, just more than just the obvious kinds of things, right? So does the person that you're working with find themselves in situations where they're using, you know, gadgets or tools or equipment, or drawn to doing those kinds of things? If they'd had opportunities to use tools or equipment, or if they use, you know, a certain kind of tool, could they try using something similar, right? That's maybe expanded on that. Do they find themselves, you know, teaching things to other people? Or are they always kind of fixing things? I think I shared with you the experience that I had with the young man in South Dakota that just kind of, you know, perseverates on things that needs to be fixed. It doesn't matter where he's at, it needs to be taken care of, and he knows how to do it. He's gonna do it. You know, so just kind of, you know, looking at things that way versus maybe, you know, some of the obvious situations. Are there trends or types of jobs that the person has had and tasks that are associated with them? So, you know, part of when we decide, or, you know, somebody doing customized or going through discovery, it's because they haven't been successful oftentimes with other approaches. But that doesn't mean that people won't be drawn to certain kinds of jobs. So maybe looking at some of the tasks that those jobs entailed that they were drawn to, and then figuring out, you know, was it just the wrong environment? Did it need to be restructured? So just kind of, those are other ways that you can kind of develop or refine those vocational themes with people. This is really kind of what you do to take this information into consideration. And you really want to kind of work with the person and then other team members to kind of consider words or phrases to use as themes. And as this is also important when we're talking about the writing and you're using some of those words. And it's like, I don't know if this is a theme or an attribute. Let's talk about it, right? We're going to start having check-ins when you start doing your field work, if you haven't already, and it'll give you a chance to kind of talk through, where you're at in the process and things that you're trying. And I think this might be a theme, but I don't know. And right, we're all going to kind of be learning together that way. Vocational themes really kind of help us find the jobs behind the jobs. I think everybody has seen this graphic, right, of the iceberg. And so, we're not going to, you've already kind of gotten into the workbook. I wanted you to do that before we had this conversation. So the language that we were using was familiar. And again, we're connecting it to discovery activities. So, I want us to, at some point, go back to, that the vocational themes workbook when you're working with your job seeker, and do some of that work, especially if you're having a difficult time pulling out what some of the skills and tasks are and identifying those themes. So the next piece that we're going to do is talk about the informational interview and how we use those, and really the process of the informational interview and how we use that to verify the vocational themes. And really what an informational interview is it's a meeting to learn about somebody's real life experience working in the field or the company that interests you. It's not a job interview. So I think that's the really important piece to keep focused on, is that you're getting information and not a job offer. And it's, for whatever reason, that is a tricky thing or difference for people to wrap their heads around, especially job developers, that you're not looking for a job, you're looking for information. You're asking the person for advice, like what was their experience in their career? What is it like to work, in that particular company? What is the culture like? I think not only can it be tricky for you as the job developer, the person that's doing the work, I think the people have been a little bit conditioned that when somebody comes asking you about the work that they do, they're conditioned that you're going to be asking for a job. So you just kind of have to keep reminding them, no, we're not asking for a job. We really do want to just learn more about the business and just about what it's like there. So informational interviews give you a chance to learn more about that business and then what potential might be there. It's not that if it's a good fit, they might have supply chains that make more sense. Maybe there's somebody else they recommend you talk to. It allows you that opportunity to connect on the personal level, right, over shared interests that they might have in common, and those shared vocational themes that people may have. Again, you're not tricking anyone. You're really just going in to learn more because you don't know anything about that particular business. You might have some background in something, but if somebody, right, has been doing this work for several years, or maybe they're new to the field, but they're just, starting their process, that can also be helpful. It really just gives you a chance to learn more in a low pressure situation. So it's going to be up to you and use your discretion with the job seeker that you're working with, whether you take the person with you on all of the informational interviews, or if you do some of those yourself and then take the person back to try some things. I do it both ways. It really just depends on the job seeker. If the person I'm working with has a real difficult time understanding that we're not asking for a job and it's not a job interview, and no matter how I have prepared that person, it doesn't seem that they understand that difference, I oftentimes will not take them to that initial meeting, because I really do want to just know more, I will then ask if we can come back and we could try a task. And sometimes it's yes, and sometimes it's no. But I don't always, especially if that person is thinking that they're going to get a job offer. I don't, they're asking for a job. I do not take them with me, because that's not what you're there for. So it really just depends on the person and how much they're able to kind of process and understand. So, again, presuming competence that you're going to take that person, and then you prepare as much as you can and go from there. So you're really just wanting to have a conversation with somebody about this area, about this theme, about this thematic area, and know whether you're on the right track, right? If somebody who wants to, work with animals, but is completely unwilling to deal with any sort of mess or situation that is unplanned for, and that's a lot of what the job entails, or that's what their career is, that's a lot of what happens in the day. It may not be a good fit, right? And you're verifying that or not. Or maybe it's, that they would prefer to work with, at a rescue or something like that. You just don't know until you really go and spend time with that expert. You want to learn about their processes. You want to learn about technology that's being used, the work conditions, and then maybe if there's anybody else that they want to talk to, or that they recommend you talk to. So whether that's their supply chain, whether it's competitors, whether it's, I got my start from this person, you should really talk to them. These are some of the sample questions that you might use. I also have a whole sheet that you can use that has some sample forms, and then a script that you can use when you're making a call. So these are just, again, this is to reiterate that this is about information about the person that you're talking to. How did you get into this line of work? What got you started? What does your business do? Like, what is your primary service? Yes, I'll give them all of this stuff to you. What does a typical day look like? This is where you want to know what the core and episodic routines are, right? Does everybody start by checking the restrooms in the building, and everybody cleans them, and everybody takes a turn rotating through, right from the CEO on down? Like, you just don't know until you ask some of those questions. What advice might you have? What are some of the things that are coming up new in the field that might be technology related? Maybe it's, things are going digital. You just don't know. I think this is a great question. What are things that customers call and ask for or complain about that you cannot provide? That might be an opportunity for resource ownership. Or if a business is really undercapitalized and they just don't have, something extra, maybe it's, a piece of equipment that they would really like to add, and it could be a product that they could serve or that they could add, or maybe it's a referral service that they just don't have anybody that can, answer the phones for a couple of hours a day. And then, if I had $10,000 to invest in your business, what would that do? And, for some people, it may not even touch what they need. And for others, they might have to think about that. But again, these are just kind of different questions that you're trying to get at in terms of understanding more about this person, their pathway, their career pathway, and then also what is happening there at this particular business. So you want to start the informational interview by saying that you're a career counselor and you're helping a person explore career opportunities, and that you're currently in a course in economic development. That is 100% true. I would say customized employment and discovery is a strategy for economic development. I think I said that in the very first session. And it's true, right? You're taking a course from Utah State on economic development, and you're really wanting to understand more about helping people explore career opportunities. You're looking for advice and information about this particular type of business and whether it's something that might work for this person. You ask for seat time first. You want to have the conversation first and then a tour of the business later. Because if you get the tour first, then that's usually, that it's easier for them to cut it off after that. You want to just ask for, a time limit, 20 minutes. And then you respect it. If they go over, right, that's up to them. Usually that's been my experience. People love to talk about themselves and their career and give advice. It's why we're asking for it. And so, but I would say, right, everybody's time is valuable. It's like 20, 30 minutes is where you want to try to keep it. I've had them go an hour, right, when somebody was taking me all around the shop and showing me every little thing. But that doesn't always happen. And if it's somebody that that's okay too. I really just want you to get comfortable, if you haven't done this before, in just learning about somebody's career pathway and getting advice and not asking for a job. Because I will tell you, even when I've told people to do informational interviews, they will tell me they're not hiring. So that tells me that they didn't ask the right questions or that they went in with the wrong intent. So if those are things that I hear or that you're writing as a result of your informational interview, I will know that you didn't necessarily really understand the intent. So this is an example of an informational interview. Hopefully it will work, because we know that I have issues with sharing stuff. So Kel, stand by. Hopefully we won't need it. This is again with Nancy Brooks Lane out of Georgia. And a little backstory, she was working with a job seeker who had an interest around textiles, fabrics. I think she knew how to operate an embroidery machine. She also had some interest in had some background in office work. And so she had a job seeker in mind when she went and did this informational interview. And the result is, so you'll hear her kind of make a bit of a proposal about how she might be able to partner or do something and follow up. But ultimately, you'll hear her just asking a lot of questions about Buckhead Threads, what they do, what their unmet needs are. It's a really good example of an informational interview. And then at the end, she talks about how she might be able to support that. And that the result of this was that they were able to do a resource ownership situation where they purchased the embroidery machine. This woman operates it. It improved their product line, which then resulted in revenue for her wages. And then she also helps with organization and the other kinds of tasks that he talked about needing. So it did result in a customized position. At the time that she just wasn't sure all of the things that he needed. See if I can get this to work. Share.
So much time and you're busy.
Can you guys hear it?
We can hear it, but it's okay. There we go. Now just expand the screen and maybe pull it back to the start if you can. The
Yeah,
audio.
I can't hear anything.
Thread is our blog where we keep people who visit our website up to date on all our big events and do recaps of all our big events to keep them up to date on what's coming up.
Does everyone have a part or do you head that up?
Sometimes it's me, or we also have other contributors whoever's involved in a particular event. Other people's perspectives, that's mine. The Thread Fest, that's our festival we have coming up where we will incorporate art, fashion, style, music in one event.
The Thread Fest, I absolutely was intrigued by. And I think that is such a sophisticated way for you to market.
The Book Club is another way we engage with our community. It's lists that they sign up to be a part of, where we get their email and we can reach out to them instead of them having to come to our website.
You say you're most proud of with Buckhead Thread.
What I'm most proud of with Buckhead Thread is the company itself. I'm proud to be here because owning your own business can be difficult and there's good times and bad, and I'm just proud of made it through all the obstacles.
Or folks who are successful in small businesses do have to have that resilience to be able to push forward and keep the business going.
Definitely, there are gonna be good times and bad times or hard times, and the hard times are really what will make the company. That'll give you an opportunity to push harder, and it'll bring things out of you that you didn't know. One experience I had while I was at Ben and Jerry's, I noticed on the wall they had a product mission, a social mission, and an economic mission. I wanted to create Buckhead Threads missions in those same areas, and in doing so, I found out that my social mission was probably the biggest part of our business. Sales are great and necessary, but what we experience in our community is much more rewarding, inspiring. Our social mission to inspire the people, create new perspectives, unite everyone under the commonality of love for art, fashion, and style, music is probably our most impactful area of this business.
Some of the stressors that you're currently experiencing as the owner of a small business.
Some of the stresses I have day to day, we have, an abundance of phone calls, emails that I have to respond to, all those type of administrative aspects of business, taking away from doing other designs and making sales and doing promo. So, I've kind of have a lot of different directions I get pulled in, so that tends to cause some stress.
Smoothly would be if you're not getting involved in some of the initial contacts that come into your business, where someone could read through those and figure out what are the skill sets and as the business owner require your attention or input, and those that might could be handled at a different level. Often we find that can make a business run more smoothly. Then you're freed up with your creativity to really focus on that product design, product development.
Yeah, if a person who was the right match for a particular task, such as answering phone calls, going through emails, answering emails, other aspects, I could definitely see how it would free me up to tackle some new frontiers for our business and even help us expand into new products.
That might be a way that we could help you. We're able to do a good job of matching a potential employee or an applicant for your interview, is to get to know exactly what those tasks are. Would it be possible for me to come in and spend time getting to know what those tasks are, to see if we might could help address that need?
That would be great. I really appreciate it.
The products or services that you would like to grow?
Yeah, there are a few spaces we'd like to expand into, one being the home goods market, such as bedding, towels.
What resources to be able to expand into these areas?
We would need probably a few different things like an embroidery machine or machine that prints on other surfaces other than clothing, like pins or on mugs, other printing equipment would really help us out.
There are some tangible equipment that could enable Buckhead Thread to grow and expand into these areas, as well as provide an individual who has an interest and the ability to learn those skills to be a part of that expansion. Nick, how did you decide to add the component of an internship opportunity into the business of Buckhead Thread?
Did our internship program as a way to get young people involved, because I knew that we do a lot of things that young people are looking to get into, such as screen printing, graphic design, running their own business, and we just use that as an opportunity for us to get some extra help and for them to get hands-on experience.
I hear of possibilities that we might could have future conversations around as we work with individuals who are seeking opportunities in this artisan business that you have that might end up being a win-win for everyone.
Sounds great. I'd love to talk more about it.
What did you notice?
When we first arrived at St. Jude, it was just Claire and I.
It's always the
She was
hardest
still
part for me,
recovering from her brain surgery, and
getting,
side effects of that surgery meant that she had to relearn how to walk and how to speak.
okay. What did you notice in the conversation with Nancy and Nick?
Yeah, I don't know about everybody else, but it was so broken up that I couldn't hardly understand what they were saying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It was pretty, like, the audio was pretty choppy. There was the captions on there, so you could read it, but it wasn't awesome audio quality. I don't know why, because we played it before and it's been just fine. So I don't
Know what the deal is. I will send that out. I'm sorry, I didn't see the notes that you guys couldn't hear that very well. I apologize. I've got to figure that out. I don't know why it's doing that. I will send the YouTube link so that you can look at it. Did you, as far as like reading the captions, did you get the sense though that there wasn't, it was very much learning about the business, right? What their needs were, what his journey was, what their mission was, where things he might have needed help with. Okay. So Tony, you noticed he was really organized. She was organized and engaging in her questions. Okay. Did you notice that that's very different than going in and seeing somebody's hiring, right? There was kind of that discussion at the end about, I think we have, some ways that we could work together potentially. But
Yeah, it was not threatening, I mean, sometimes I think when we go in and people put their block, they'll put a barrier up. If they think you're wanting something from them besides information, but if you're engaging in what they're interested in, it's you're gonna get a lot more information.
good. Sorry, I'm just gonna take a minute and put the link here so you guys can check that out later on your own. I apologize. Okay. Okay, so what I would like you to do is think about, and this is, you have the rest of the day, or like this time. So we're going to be done after this, and then we can either join later in the morning tomorrow. This is all we have. This is the activity for the rest of this time and then tomorrow. So based on what you know your schedule is for today and then tomorrow morning, would you like to meet tomorrow at like 10 o'clock or 10:30? And you know that you're going to need to do this in the morning based on what you have for the rest of the day. Anyway, you just got to tell me what you need, but I want you to identify a couple of places that you would like to explore. It doesn't have to be with the job seeker that you're working with, but it could be. If you know the person enough, it could also just be something that you're interested in or that you just want to learn more about. And then I want you to set up an informational interview. And basically just talk to them. Ideally, right, you get to go in and have that conversation. I will accept a phone call or a Zoom meeting. Especially if we're only giving, I'm trying to give you a small window of time. If you're able to schedule and go in, but you're not able to do it until, I don't know, like Thursday or something, and they're going to meet with you, that is perfectly fine. You can do your write-up. Something I want to show you that I will be sending to you is, find my, oh, that's not what I want. We have I have way too many tabs open. I apologize. Just go to my drawing. Okay, let's try this again. So I'm going to be sending you this whole kind of sample script. So you don't have to come up with your script or all of those things. These are several of the questions that you can put together. You're not going to ask or all of these, right? Because it may not be something that right, some of these questions may not be relevant to the business or the person that you're talking to in terms of the types of business they have. So, but right, you can say, this is so-and-so. It can be, if this is somebody that you are like familiar with, or it's a business that you frequent, but you don't know a lot about them, you can certainly go that route. A couple of sessions ago, I had someone in the course who he's a diver and he goes to a certain place for diving, but he's never had a conversation with the owner. And and he wanted to learn more about what her experience was, what her career path was. And he wasn't working with a job seeker yet. So it was a great opportunity for him to do an informational interview with this person and this shared interest that he had around diving. That is perfectly acceptable. I want you to just get comfortable learning more about something and not asking for a job, if that makes sense. So here is your template, your the way you will structure it, some pointers, right, that you're doing smooth listening, you're not doing all the talking, using some of those phrases like, well, tell me more about this, right? Nancy did that. Tell me more about the internship program and why you started that. So maybe there's a little bit that you know about this business that you want to learn more about. So I will send this to you in a Word document, and then you can use it. You can change it around however you want. And then if you're able to have the conversation when we meet tomorrow, great, you can share that with us. If not, then you'll just need to write it up and send it to me. Okay. If you can take pictures, that's great. If not, that's okay too. Is anybody freaking out about this assignment?
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of these that you're showing us are, I mean, they're basically small businesses. If it's like a retail business, are you looking for a manager or looking to go in and visit with some of the employees or?
Yes. Sorry, that's a really good point. You want to talk to a decision maker if possible. Right, because that's you're going to get the most information about the company, right? And about their experience.
So it's okay to go to those kind of places?
Yeah.
If that's an interest? Okay.
Small business, yes. The more that you can talk, the closer that you get to a decision maker, the better.
Okay. But if it's not like a family-owned business, you're fine with that?
Yeah, I just think you want
Rather-
to talk to somebody who
Or manager would be fine.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other question I have real quick is, I live really close to the Freeport Center, which I don't know if you know what that is, but there's hundreds of companies there. Is there any type of search engine that you can use that kind of narrows down what businesses are in your area? I tried like Google Maps, like in the Freeport Center, and that doesn't really do a lot. It just kind of like gives you big office buildings and warehouses and things like that.
I mean, I think if there's like a certain interest area, are you thinking about it in terms of your job, the job seeker you're supporting? Or are you thinking just
Right, just kind of see what, because I know that there's all kinds of businesses in there and stuff. I'm just curious to see what they are and how I find those.
I don't know enough about the Freeport Center. Do you, Jason? I know you worked in that.
Yeah, so there's like there's a tenant directory.
Okay,
Is that, I mean, if that's kind of what you're,
yeah,
I
that would be
just,
start.
I've seen it before. I mean, it's a lot, right?
Right,
It just starts at A and they go alphabetically and you can go through and you can look at the companies. You'd probably have to like Google. Cause
individual companies when I
I was
kind of
looking at
identify
the
some.
directory to see if they had like links to like maybe their website and stuff, but it's not really, it's a directory that shows you who the company is and where they're located at the Freeport Center. So
Okay,
you probably have to just
yeah, that'll give me a
Google the
start.
name or something, but in fact, let me just put it in the message in the
Hey,
chat.
I just put on the link to the plot map that shows all the businesses in the Freeport Center. So you could just look at that and see what's in there.
Okay. A plot map.
Yeah.
That
So there's
sounds
like Lifetime and Smith Optics and just a whole bunch of stuff.
All right, okay.
Ask the bus driver. He knows everything. Former bus driver, I should say.
Former, yeah, that's right. Yeah, there's actually inside of the Freeport Center, I had clients that I'd go drop off that helped at the Davis School District, like helped on the buses. So we had, clients that used paratransit that went there. There's a business although it doesn't say what the business name is on here, but it's in that F5 building that they also employ a guy that he's disabled, but he just goes in there and puts things together for him. So anyway, so there's a lot in there that actually work with disabled clients.
Right, all right, I appreciate that.
Awesome.
That
So, right,
that tenant directory, I think obviously it also has phone numbers and stuff, so you can call them.
Okay, that's great.
See, wasn't that beautiful that you asked the question? Resources at your fingertips. I love it. Right. So a small business is great just because you can typically talk to a decision maker. And again, we're not looking for jobs, we're looking for advice. I think I'd love to tell you, kind of try to stay away from restaurants, but if you're working with somebody that has a culinary interest, or, just be thoughtful about when you do that, right? Obviously not the lunch rush or, those kinds of things. So this is your chance to be curious and have fun. Go somewhere that you want to learn where you've maybe always wanted to go and learn more about. So does somebody have an idea about where they're going? Tish, sorry, Tony, you're going to the Freeport Center. You're going to kind of look in that way because it's really close proximity wise to where this job.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of look and just, I want to know more what's in there, but this kind of sounds kind of because my client's nonverbal, but he loves puzzles and just he's really good at details and things like that. He loves Harry Potter, Disney music, movies. And during Christmas, I found a store. It's called Box Lunch, and it has a lot of those type of carries all those items for those type of themes and stuff. But they also have a giving back to the community part of their store also. So that's somewhere I might look at.
Cool. Miranda, where are you thinking about going?
We have kind of like a strip mall that I wanted to check out. There's a whole bunch of different small businesses in there that just keep changing. So I need to go see what's available and what would kind of work.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. See you later. Awesome. So you have some ideas about where you're going to go. I know it's a catch you off guard. So tell me what's going to make sense time-wise. Do people want a little bit later so that you can go and have time in the morning? Do you want to just meet it? Just tell me what makes the most sense as far as when you feel like you're going to be able to do this. If you want more time in the morning, if you're going to be able to arrange it, now and get out this afternoon. You just got to tell me what your schedules are like.
I'll try to do mine today, but also it's going to depend on the place, I guess, for what they're available. But my place, I probably can go in pretty easy.
Okay.
Yeah, I might end up kind of doing two things at once because I've got a client he's got an interview on Thursday, but I wanted to take him to the business today just so he can kind of go around and check it out and come up with questions. And so maybe that's a good time to maybe I can just talk to them and do that at the same time. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So do you want to just meet at normal time tomorrow? Does nobody ever feel like they need extra time in the morning?
Yeah, I don't feel like I'd be doing much in the morning. So.
Okay. All right. Let's plan on keeping our 9 o'clock. It will be quick. You guys can just give your updates about what you learned. And, just really what I want you to do is kind of capture what you learned about the person that you spent time talking with, what you learned about the business, maybe some of the unmet needs. And I'll put this in the email with the document. And then you're going to just kind of what questions you kind of answer or what kind of questions you pulled from and learned, and then just take some time to share with us. Okay. That's pretty much all we'll do tomorrow. And then we'll talk about just the orientation, if anybody needs support, getting the person there and that next week, and then just kind of next steps for what, because you basically start doing your field work, and then we'll have check-ins. I'll send you calendar invites for that. And we'll go from there. So look for an email from me in the next few minutes with the informational interview questions. And I'll see you in the morning. And you guys can reach out anytime if you have any questions or text me, and I'm happy to clarify anything.
Thanks.
Okay. Have fun. I can't wait to hear what you guys come up with. See you in the morning.